Alright guys, SuchGrubby here, back again today, and today I wanted to discuss the concept, the topic of players' unions. It's been talked about over the last couple of weeks from some of the professionals with this summit, the player summit that's happened over the last few days in the past week. There has definitely been a discussion on players' unions, and X did a tweet at the event. Some people are looking into the tweet that X has done at the event and saying, course, some really bad stuff must be going on behind the scenes for X to come out with this, but maybe it was just a thought process that went through his mind and continued from some Twitter threads and discussion that we saw in the previous week. We have players' unions in other esports, the likes of Counter-Strike Global Offensive. I don't think it exists in the Overwatch League though, which is probably the best comparison given Activision Blizzard own both the Overwatch League and the Call of Duty League for the upcoming season. We're going to talk about players' unions today. It's a very intriguing topic. It's not one that I want to necessarily cast full judgment on. I'm not going to come out here and say I have great understanding of players' unions and really unions in general, but yeah, I wanted to get into the topic today, go through some Reddit discussion as well, and leave your thoughts down in the comment section below, because sometimes if you don't know enough about things, it's okay not to have an opinion and let some more facts come in and give it some more thought. And I'm sure you guys in the comment section below will help me think through things in greater detail. That's what we're going to discuss today. Like if you guys enjoy, subscribe if you are new as always. The YouTube algorithm would greatly appreciate it, and so would I. Setsi says the following, so of course formerly of Mindfreak in the past season. Contract, it's official, he says. Really intriguing. We are seeing some teams come out and announce actual teams now. And I'm not talking about the professional league, I'm talking about for the amateur, path to pro stuff. If Setsi has been signed as a substitute anywhere, I would be kind of surprised. Nathan, thanks to him for pointing this out to me. Maybe he's just signed somewhere as a path to pro kind of team, that an organization are actually going to fund them to, say, the Minnesota event. We talked about that a few days ago now, with Minnesota having 192 teams sold out in the open bracket in 24 hours. Maybe Setsi's on one of them, maybe an organization is swooping in to pick him up, and some other players, because Mindfreak have said, and Naked and the guys over there have said, look, we're stepping out of Call of Duty forever effectively, and who knows, maybe they'll come back in later seasons if things don't go so well with the franchise league. But I kind of doubt that'll be the case, at least for a very long time. And maybe, it's difficult to see what happens with Mindfreak in the future. But this is what Setsi says anyway. And Deserto.com and Deserto.com say this: who was the best Call of Duty player in 2019? I didn't get the chance to vote in this. Simp, Abizi, Octane, or Dashi? Interestingly, the Dashi actually still wins the highest percentage of the vote here. I see a lot of people talking now on Reddit. I think Draft Buff did their rankings of what are going to be the best players going into the Modern Warfare season, and I think Dashi, they had him at second. A lot of the comments were like, yeah, Dashi at second, like no chance for the for the Modern Warfare season. If I said that wrong. Get a little bit confused myself. And I think a lot of that is because, well, Dashi was on OpTic last year. He's still on OpTic, but now the fans have shifted. So, of course, they're not going to put him in the same position. However, Dashi still does get the best proportion of the vote here. Kind of surprising. I think Simp probably just about deserves it. And Octane would also definitely be up there for me. Simp and Dashi are definitely the most standout in terms of flashy kind of players. But in terms of consistency, I would almost give it to Octane, just because he did it the entire year, whereas Simp came in halfway through the year. And yeah, even though he absolutely dominated, if Simp had been playing from CDL Vegas, I've no doubt Simp would have been the best player in that year. Dashi gets it just about here. I think that Octane could have also been up there again. Interesting to put Abizi in there as well. I don't know who else I would put up there. Abizi definitely a valuable player though, for sure. Simp and Abizi just absolutely deadly. So yeah, thought I'd run through that before we get into the player union stuff. So here we go then. If this tweet wants to load, I'm sure it will do in just a second. Stay on standby. Pristini, Call of Duty is actually making me sad. This is quite a while ago. I saved this tweet thread from No Preston. Pretend to like it and have some fun. Trust me. This is the kind of stuff I was talking about with that video on, when will the Twitter crackdown come? Whether this stuff will actually be allowed. But anyway, I'm just going to pretend to like the game because it actually works. I mean, dog, your job is to play. You might as well enjoy it. All a matter of perspective. You got to learn to enjoy the little things. Enjoy the fact you're getting paid a ton to play. Enjoy the fact you have camaraderie with your teammates. Enjoy the small improvements within your team where you fix a rotation or hold. Enjoy gunning kids to bed. Feel me? And Slasher says, short term, yes. We also want the league to be successful for the long term. Think long term for a second. I'd love to be involved in something like this for as long as possible and maybe work in it after retirement. We need better periods. this is very interesting. Like, Slasher obviously is a very long-term thinking guy, very smart guy. He has, if you guys aren't aware, he has a bachelor's in robotic engineering. One of his famous comebacks is like, I could build a robot to like beat you in an argument or something. I forget when he said that. A bit of a copy pasta. And he did all this while becoming world champion in Black Ops 3. Still an absolutely fantastic player as of today. So yeah, Slasher has a lot of respect from me. And finally won an MVP actually, I think, at Anaheim in this year's Black Ops 4 season. But yeah, this is a guy who thinks long term, he thinks for the distance, and he's looking at his career going forwards and he's saying, okay, yes, I'm making bank now. Will the league continue to be successful in the coming years? I hope so I can continue to actually have a job here. And if that isn't the case, then what exactly am I going to do? When I retire, can I still be involved in the esport? Will I get some sort of management position? I'm sure a lot of players are thinking in this vein right now, and Slasher definitely one of them, despite being one of the very best players in the world. So Clayster replies with, until we create a players union, ain't nothing we gonna do gonna change anything. I messed up that, but you get what I mean. Okay, let's do it. Oh wait, CoD players don't understand this is in their best interests. They give some BS excuses every time as to why, we don't want a players union. And, I think I saw a funny comment on Reddit saying, well, there's no chance a players union is ever going to be created because the players can't get out of bed in time to actually get to a meeting. So Garet points this out to me, and thanks very much for doing so. So I've saved that tweet, threw it up for a while, and it's kind of relevant when we now look at this tweet from Paddy P and, Clayster and Morrison. So Ake says, Player Summit is making me realize how badly CoD players need a players union, maybe one day soon. Now, who knows whether he's saying, we really need a players union badly because something really bad are happening. Is there something really bad is happening in the players union, and he feels like they need to be a united force to actually, have some power against that, or maybe he's just thinking with all the players in the room at the same time, maybe it was, maybe it's just sparked something in his mind that said, what if we actually just created a union and we actually could hopefully have some more power against to try and make the game a more competitive space. And we'll talk about that in a second as we go through the Reddit discussion. So Clayster says, we've been talking about it at Morrison. So at Morrison, video game attorney, CEO of Evolved Talent, founding partner of Morrison Rothman, VP of Esports Bar, video game attorney on Reddit, 60,000 followers. Hell yes, way overdue, and I'm happy to chat about what you would need and point to you some attorneys that can knock it out the park for you. Attorneys, I don't know how you really want to pronounce that. So many rights just given away and not enough given in return. So yeah, very interesting discussion. I think a lot of pros are of the opinion that this would be a beneficial thing to create, but then of course we look at it from the perspective of the pros and the perspective of Activision, and let's go through some Reddit discussion here to go on to this, because I definitely think a players union could be valuable in certain aspects, but it just depends how much leverage they're going to have against Activision Blizzard, right? Because when you look at the NBA and the LFL, and there is some interesting discussion, as I said here on the Reddit, the players are the entertainment, they're the product, they're the crucial part of the gig to the NBA, right? And if the players go on strike, then the NBA obviously lose a hell of a lot of money. For Activision, competitive is not that important of a factor, at least at the current time. Of course, my perspective is that for games to last long term, for the most part, there are some fringe cases, like Minecraft, for example, and maybe Call of Duty is also a fringe case, I hope not, but maybe it is, that you need a competitive scene to thrive in order for a game to last long term. Casual players will move from game to game after they'll play a game for a year, say like a Counter-Strike Global Offensive or something, they'll play that, a guy who's a casual guy will play that for a little bit, and then he'll kind of get bored of it and move on to a different game, and that's kind of how things work. However, the competitive scene keeps the game alive for the long term because people want to be the best. That's a natural human instinct. So, and maybe this doesn't happen with Call of Duty as much because we have a new game every year. We've seen for the last 10 years that Activision have still been making most of their money, like the vast majority of it, through actual in-game sales and all these kind of things. The competitive community has not been a part of it. But I do think Activision Blizzard realise that in order for games to last long term, and I think they're definitely seeing this with Overwatch really, that, okay, Overwatch comes out for a bit, some players will play it casually, then they'll move on to another game if they're not really into the competitive side in order to keep it maintained, especially because Overwatch is a multi-year game. They've been talking about Overwatch 2, but that'll also be a multi-year game, unlike Call of Duty when it's every single year. You need a competitive scene to actually maintain the competitive environment. So maybe the players have more leverage than these individuals in this thread are going for, and at least their opinion, because in the long term, Activision really values the competitive scene and thinks that that is the step the Call of Duty will have to take going forwards to continue to be super profitable for them, because I think the sales of Call of Duties over the last couple of years have started to dwindle a little bit. Even with all the Modern Warfare hype, I still think the sales aren't as good as what we've seen in Black Ops 4. And maybe going forwards, we'll have to see how it goes. But anyway, I think that Activision definitely needs competitive as well going forwards. But right now, that's not necessarily the case. So it depends. Do the players have the leverage of now, or do they have the leverage of going forward into the future? This is the discussion here. So this is very interesting. What issues are they fighting for? How are they being taken advantage of or mistreated? What about their work conditions aren't fair or safe? And this is kind of the point where a traditional labor union, I suppose, talking about working conditions and workers' rights and these kind of things. And look, what rights are being taken away? I'd be interested to hear the thoughts down in the comment section below. A lot of the discussion here is revolving around the video game they play isn't fun, right? And at the end of the day, you're getting paid an awful lot of money to play a game. Are the working conditions not great? Possibly, right? They play a stupid amount of hours every day, like 12 hours at least to practice for the game. But I guess that is just esports, and if you want to be the best, you have to practice all of that time. It's not something that's rare in normal sports as well, for the best players to be playing all day and all night and putting their life on the line at some times to be the very best they can be. Not saying that's the case in esports, but definitely in normal sports that is the case. And I think this is an interesting comment, right? It's a subjective territory whether the game is non-competitive, right? I guess there's a thought here that if the game is non-competitive and the game is not the best for competitive play, that's an issue that they should be able to fight back against with the developers, which is fair enough, and maybe a players' union would help there. But at the same time, maybe it's a tough thing to prove that this game isn't great for competitive play and we need XYZ changes. Maybe it would help in that aspect, and I think it would be great for gentlemen's agreements and stuff to get these kind of things locked down into an XYZ, like this is allowed, this isn't allowed, and maybe that would be a better way to go about it. But still, a lot of subjective territory here that needs to be sorted out, especially compared to what we typically see from a labor union, I guess, in a normal real job. And esports, of course, is very new territory. So yeah, this is a comment here about the potential going forwards. It'll never come to fruition. These guys don't make COD any money. No one will care what they want. They should consider themselves lucky to be in the position they are in. But look, I don't know. Just a final thing to discuss from MP32 Gaming. Of course, he talks about Sir Scoots in his comments here, and it couldn't be a video on players' unions without talking to Sir Scoots, talking about Sir Scoots for a bit. So he says, I mean, they made Activision a quick and easy $350 million because they play COD competitively. The goal is to grow the esport. People don't drop 25, 35 million to 25, but possibly more in some cities, expecting to turn a profit because they sell a bunch of jerseys and tickets. They expect the league to grow and make those 25 million spots worth 50 million and so on. People said the exact same thing about CSGO players before their union. And CSGO is a completely different landscape and ecosystem in terms of you've got multiple different tournament organizers. So there's an importance to be a union, so you can go to tournament organizers and say, okay, we want these things from our tournaments. We don't want to be playing at stupid early hours in the morning. We don't want to be flying from this tournament to this tournament overnight and being jet lagged. And having a union there will help figure out differences with those tournament organizers. That issue isn't really the situation in Call of Duty, but as he continues, you're actually proving my point. Valve has a big hand in the CSGO competitive scene. They focused on the professional competitive side of the game, and the esport eventually became bigger than the game. I highly recommend anyone that's a fan of esports to listen to the Sir Scoots podcast on Eavesdrop. I'll leave that links down below. I haven't got the chance to watch it yet, but I do plan to. A legend in esports and helped set up and really invigorated the setting up of the CSGO players union that exists today. This is why investors are putting up $25 million for a piece of the pie. That's also the reasoning behind the city-based model, like traditional sports. I'm a firm believer there's a disconnect between Infinity Ward and Activision, causing the lack of support for pro players. Maybe Activision expects Infinity Ward to just focus on the casual side of release, then after the Christmas Battle Royale drop, and then worry about the competitive side, since it's just the pre-season. And this is something I've been thinking more and more about lately, especially with what Scrap said a couple of days ago, saying they are actually attempting to fix the game. Hopefully that's the case. Once the Christmas noobs come in and actually buy the game and the casuals love it, then we'll focus on competitive play. But maybe that's a pipe dream. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new as always. Very interesting topic. There's a lot of things that could be said on this, and I'm sure you guys will leave your thoughts down below. And yeah, help me learn more about the topic. So yeah, thanks for watching as always. I will see you next time.